Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because, wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. Hello and welcome to Fresh Take from What Fresh Hell, laughing in the face of motherhood. This is Margaret.
And this is Amy. And today we're talking to Rachel Nielson. She's the host of 3 in 30 Takeaways, a podcast for moms who want to love motherhood as much as they love their children. Each 30-minute episode features 3 actionable takeaways to help mothers thrive within their family lives. Rachel lives in the mountains of Idaho with her husband and their 2 miracle children. Their son Noah is adopted, and their daughter Sally was conceived through IVF. Welcome, Rachel.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I love your show, and I'm so excited to be here.
Tell us about your journey to parenthood, Rachel, because it has lots of twists and turns.
So my son Noah is adopted, and that was after years of infertility treatments. We actually started adoption and infertility treatments at the same time because I just thought, we'll just see what happens first. And that seemed like a good idea, but it was incredibly emotionally intense to be doing both at the same time. I wouldn't do that again. But we ended up getting our Noah. He's 10. And then a few years later, we did IVF and got Sally, my younger. So it's been a journey.
And your adoption is an open adoption. Is that correct?
It is very open, and we love his birth parents. His birth mom actually passed away a few years ago, and it's been such a blessing that we had that open adoption with her. We have all the pictures and everything, so we have all the memories, and we're still very close to his birth father. So that's a pretty special thing.
One of the interesting things about talking about motherhood is that it is this huge spectrum. People have such different experiences of coming to motherhood. And then obviously people have such different children. As it turns out, these children are humans who turn out quite differently, often than we expect. How much of that informed you wanting to talk about motherhood and bringing your story into talking to other moms?
Well, I definitely think that I had a view of what motherhood would be like and what I would be like as a mother. I really thought that I knew. And then I came into it and realized that motherhood was not at all what I thought it would be like, especially after fighting for these babies for so long. I thought that I will just love every minute of it. And I gave up my career willingly. I was like, I'm going to want to be home with these little miracles. And then I really missed teaching. I was a high school English teacher before and found that I was lonely. My kids weren't how I thought that they would be. And so I started reaching out, listening to other mom podcasts and reaching out to other women to try to kind of find my place and my groove and how I wanted to do motherhood, and eventually decided I didn't want to go back to teaching full time mostly because of all the grading.
Oh, the grading.
Oh my gosh. I love teaching, but the grading. And so I decided to start my podcast as a way to keep teaching. And it's been such a blessing for me to be able to learn from so many different types of moms, so many different, skills and ways to relate to different kids. So it's been a huge blessing in my life.
I wanted to ask you, so I had an infertility journey of my own. It took me a long time to get pregnant with my oldest child. And I do think that affected me. I was a very, sort of perfectionist new parent and trying to do the best birth plan, the best, feed them the best, right? That every moment has to be optimally challenging or whatever. And I think that the infertility for me, the struggle to become a parent did put me in a mindset where I fought too hard and too long for this to waste one moment.
Oh, absolutely. And I think when you add adoption onto that, I knew what his birth parents had given up. And so I felt a lot of responsibility to really do this well. Both of his birth parents were teenagers, and they decided to place him because they thought that we would be better prepared. And here I'm feeling I'm actually not prepared at all. I thought I was, but I'm like, I owe it to them to do this really well. And so there was that added layer, I think, of it wasn't real. It was me putting it on myself. Guilt and responsibility of wanting to get this just right and wanting to be perfect. And that led me to a lot of depression. And I guess there's actually a thing that's like adoption depression that's similar to postpartum depression, where you can really it's such a complicated circumstance a lot of times, adoption, and you don't get the same kind of support that you might get postpartum. People think you're just fine because you didn't have the baby. And so...
Right. It's like, oh, it's hormones or nothing. Right. So you must be fine. Right.
Yeah. And I was really lonely and depressed and discouraged and didn't even really realize that I was struggling with depression until later, and looked back and thought, I think I just assumed because I didn't have the baby that there was no way I could have like postpartum depression. But I had my own form of depression for sure during that time. It was really difficult.
And you've talked a lot about mental health on the podcast and dealing with depression, and it's obviously a huge topic, and it's not like, okay, here's your answer. It's time to solve depression for us. But what are some of the things you've learned in talking to people about depression for the podcast that have been really useful for you?
Yeah, I think number one is just knowing how to recognize depression. Like I said, I didn't realize that I had it when I had it. And so I think understanding that depression can manifest as anger. It can manifest as so many different things that just, if asking the people around you who know you well, how do you think I'm doing? Do things seem off to you? Sometimes they can give you a perspective that you may not be able to have yourself, and then not being afraid to reach out for help. I did go to therapy when my son was about a year old. I started going to therapy and probably should have taken medication then, but I was resistant and thought like, I don't need that and I can fix it.
Right. I can love my kids enough to get through this.
Yes. And then after my daughter was born a few years later, when I was like having panic attacks, I realized something is up. And that's when I started taking medication. That has helped me tremendously. And I think I was worried that medication would make me not myself. But I actually feel like it makes me more myself. I feel like myself. And it's almost like I couldn't even access the emotional coping tools that I was learning in therapy. I couldn't access those until I took medication to get me to sort of like a baseline. And then I was able to start doing like the thought work and all of those things. But until I got to that baseline, I didn't even have the capability to access those tools, if that makes sense. So I would say get help. Don't be afraid. There's lots of different options for help out there if you are feeling in that dark, heavy place that I was in.
And something that you talked about that we've talked a lot about, and I feel like I have such a different perspective from talking about it on the podcast. I had terrific postpartum anxiety, meaning horrible postpartum, not terrific, like it was awesome. Just
positively,
yeah. It was terrifically gigantic. And I think that I didn't even realize at the time that that was probably a diagnosable and, if not fixable, workable with problem. But I was so trapped on those words, postpartum depression. And because I did not feel depressed, I kept thinking, I don't have that. Because it was not manifesting for me personally as sadness and crying. It was manifesting as like racing, intrusive thoughts about things that could go wrong with my kids.
Oh, amen. And I do think for anxiety in particular, if it's something that would not have stressed you out before and it's causing you tremendous stress, that's my clue that it's going beyond just stress and nervousness to like diagnosable anxiety. I remember standing in the grocery store and feeling absolutely paralyzed after my daughter was born because I did not know what groceries to get for my family. And I thought, I've never really liked grocery shopping, but it wouldn't have sent me into like a state of paralysis before. Something is clearly up. And so that was a sign to me as well that I needed to get some additional help.
I think I missed it a little bit because I kept thinking, oh, I've just opened a door to understanding because I have a baby. about dangers that I never saw before. It felt very logical to me, but only looking back on it do I see, oh, it was really exaggerated and out of control. But because I had this new thing in my life, it felt very logical to me. Like, of course, I'm checking the baby 300 times an hour because that's the logical thing you do when you're worried that a baby is going to have a horrible occurrence.
Yeah.
Can I give a shout out here too? We had Amy Koppelman on the show a couple weeks back talking about Postpartum Support International as a really good resource. And I'll put the link in the show notes. Anybody who's listening to whom this resonates, like, I'm not depressed exactly, but I do have this heightened this or that. There's really good resources on that page, which I will link to, that explain that almost 30 to 40% of women experience an uptick in depressive or anxious symptoms that can take a lot of different forms. And there's a lot of different ways that you can be helped. And it isn't like, well, I don't earn this extreme diagnosis, therefore I just have to be alone with this and suffer in silence and in this incredible isolation that new mothers have, which I think is the other complicating factor. You're the only one going through this, and you're going through something where you are the only one who can do it.
Yeah. And I think what you said there is so huge. I think sometimes we think, well, it's not bad enough to, quote, deserve a diagnosis, or it's not as bad as this other woman who I heard her story. So it must not count. Anything that is abnormal for you, anything that is inhibiting your ability to function well in your life is enough of a reason to talk to your doctor, to talk to your partner and see if you should get in some counseling, talk to your sisters, whoever it might be in your support group, and say, I'm not doing that well, and come up with a plan for it.
We're talking to Rachel Nielson from the 3 in 30 podcast, and we will be right back.
For some of us, tax season is one of the only times that we look at our finances fully. And once it's over, well, that was terrible. And it is completely understandable not to want to think about it for another whole year. But using Monarch and being intentional with your finances in an ongoing way helps you see where your money is going and how you can put your refund to best use.
We are here to tell you, simplify your finances with Monarch. Monarch is the all-in-one personal finance tool designed to make your life easier. It brings your entire financial life, budgeting, accounts and investments, net worth, and future planning together in one dashboard on your phone or laptop.
Feel aware and in control of your finances this tax season and get 50% off your Monarch subscription with code FRESH.
As you know, my husband and I are preparing to send, 3 kids off to college, and I cannot tell you how helpful Monarch has been in showing us our full financial picture, helping us to track our spending and reach important savings milestones. Our weekly meeting, Amy, it's now run by Monarch.
Love it. Achieve your financial goals for good with Monarch, the all-in-one tool that makes money management simple.
Use code FRESH at monarch.com for half off your first year. That's 50% off at monarch.com, code FRESH.
You know that thing where you get an amazing pair of shoes at a really great price and want to tell everyone about it? Yeah, so do we. Here at Designer Shoe Warehouse, we'll give you something to brag about, like the latest styles from brands you love, or the trends everyone's obsessing over, or shoes that make you feel like, well, you. So go ahead, show off a little. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today. DSW, let us surprise you.
We're back. We're talking to Rachel Nielson. She's the host of 3 in 30 Takeaways podcast. Rachel, I wanted to ask you about a parable that you heard one day that really changed your outlook on parenting.
Yeah. Well, and this is a perfect connection to what we were just talking about with the depression and the anxiety and the new motherhood. When my son was a baby and I was feeling so discouraged and so mad at myself for feeling discouraged in my motherhood after this long-awaited miracle baby had finally come to me, I happened to hear a sermon, a religious sermon, where the preacher who was talking shared the story of a young miner in the California gold rush who had heard about gold in California and thought, oh, it's going to be so easy. I'm going to go strike it rich. And he just journeyed west and expected to find huge nuggets just sitting there waiting for him in the river. And day after day, he kept dipping his pan in. And just finding rocks, chucking them to the side. Eventually, he was so disappointed. He thought, I'm just going to go home. There's no gold in this river. And an elderly prospector who was walking by said to him, there's gold here, all right. You just have to know where to look for it. And he cracked open the rocks and showed the young man that there were these little flecks of gold inside the rocks. And the young man said, no, I want big nuggets like what you have in your pouch. He could see that the old man had like a weighty leather bag on his belt. And the older man opened it up and showed him that was just the accumulation of hundreds of flecks of gold that had given his pouch this weight and had brought him this wealth. And when I heard that story, he wasn't talking about parenthood. It was a different principle, but I related it to my life at that moment of I had expected motherhood to be a series of big golden nuggets that would be easy to find, that I would just pick up every day, and that it would be so blissful and joyful, and that I needed to start looking for the flecks of gold and mining them out and digging for them in my life. And so I started a gratitude practice where I would just write down one fleck of gold each day that I was experiencing with my baby, but also sometimes just by myself, or with my partner, just something beautiful and golden. And as I did that, it became much more instinctual for me to see those things because I was looking for them. And so all of a sudden I would be in the middle of a moment and I would think, oh, here it is. This is my fleck of gold for today. And so it kind of started to change my perspective. And then as I would write it down, I'd kind of relive it and get the happy emotions at the end of the day of writing it down. And it really, in addition to therapy and these other things we talked about, this gratitude practice, I think, slowly pulled me out of that slump and helped me to see that I was a good mom, that, even though everything wasn't easy with my children, there still were magical moments. And it's really become a practice where I've been able to give weight to the moments that matter in my motherhood and sort of let go of all the junk that doesn't matter and focus in on those weighty golden moments.
I love this. I want to go back to the miner because it occurs to me while you're talking about the miner that he thought this was going to be easy. It occurs to me but first he journeyed across the country. Like there's gold in them thar hills. You were promised, he was promised that you have to undergo this terrible journey, which for you was infertility, pregnancy, the adoption journey, right? This long, arduous struggle. And then you're going to get there and then it's going to be easy, right? And then there's gold. Then you just pick it up. Mm-hmm. And what he was discouraged by was like, wait a minute, I was promised that there would be this reward for that struggle. And now it's just still struggle. Yeah, it is. You're going to have to continue to work hard. And I think sometimes mothers are judged for feeling these feelings and not loving every moment. But we were, I think, sometimes by the, Hallmark industry out there, it's forced upon us that it is going to be easy and wonderful. And we're going to treasure every moment, right?
Yeah. And that's just not reality.
That's not what happens. Yeah. Glad to hear that.
And on the flip side of the metaphor, the nuggets of gold that we're seeing is like other moms who we think we're doing worse than.
Right. Mm.
So like, I hand make all the Halloween costumes and then start decorating for Christmas the next day, moms. The other part of that metaphor is so resonant. Looking at other people and being like, you have found a magic door to special motherhood, and I am stuck on the side of the door that is not satisfying motherhood.
Mm-hmm. And I think also the power there of the mentor showing him that's not really what it's like, And I hope that we all have some of those women in our lives, those mother mentors. It can be people we actually know in our circle. It might also be podcasters we listen to. I'm sure that the two of you are that for a lot of moms who listen to your show, of just reminding, all of us, especially those that are new to motherhood, that that's not what it's like, but the flecks of gold are here. And here's how to find them. Here's how to pull them out and to give them the weight that they deserve. One of my motherhood mentors during that time told me, in motherhood, the difficult moments sometimes outnumber the beautiful moments, but the beautiful moments outweigh the difficult moments. And so that was such a great image for me to remember. And even coming from a woman that I admired so much, her saying this is normal, but hold on to those flecks of gold and let them weigh more than the numerous difficult moments that you face every day with your really hard baby.
Yeah, because the other thing this pushes back on is the enjoy every minute.
Yes.
Which is something that we talk about a lot. And I'm sympathetic to the older moms now that I am a mom of older kids. I mean, my youngest is 9, but I get it. I see a little baby and I'm like, oh, I don't even remember it. Like, oh, I wish I could go back in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
But enjoy every moment is just horrible advice, period.
Yeah, it really is.
So how does this fleck of gold framing help you push back against that? When you were in this moment of like, I must be doing everything wrong. This kid deserves more, right? I'm not doing this right. Was finding that fleck of gold really hard at first? Or was it reassuring that it wasn't that hard?
I think that it depends on the day, and I still do this flecks of gold practice. And some days it's easy to find them, and other days and some seasons, it's really hard to find those flecks of gold, especially when certain kids are going through really hard seasons of their own.
Yes.
Yes. Very hard.
relate.
Very hard.
But I do think that, and I hear this a lot from women in my community. So I actually created a journal, the Flecks of Gold journal, that is a specific journal that women can track these flecks of gold. And a lot of women who have started using the Flecks of Gold journal have said to me that once they've gotten into the habit, they see the gold everywhere. Like it's like they retrained themselves to see it. And so it seems more plentiful. It was probably there all along, but it just retrained your brain to notice the good that's in your life.
That's the reticular activating system in the brain.
Ooh.
Yeah. That our brain, we can train our brain to notice what we want it to, like to look for yellow cars. But it will look for it, but it doesn't understand the word no. So if you say like, stop looking for the annoying stuff, I don't know, it doesn't understand negatives, so it will like look for the annoying stuff is what it will hear. But if it hears look for gratitude, look for yellow cars, it will. And then all of a sudden you're seeing yellow cars everywhere. So you can retrain it. Or so I've heard. I'm a little bit earlier in this practice.
Rumor has it.
I didn't know that was like an official thing with a name.
That's what Amy's here for, the official names for things.
Yeah. Because I'm like, when you start, if you're looking for a yellow car to buy yourself, all of a sudden, all you see on the road is yellow cars. And it's similar when you're looking for the good in your children, when you're looking for the good in your life, and not in like a cheesy, like Margaret was saying, like enjoy every moment, not in that way, but just looking for those really special moments and things, you'll start to see more of them.
Rachel sent us the Flecks of Gold journal. It's
gorgeous.
Beautiful. It's a great gift for, I was going to say a new mom, but really any mom. It's a beautiful journal record, like just a beautiful gift. And it takes the pressure off, right? This sounds like, oh, this might be hard work. I had a really bad day and now I have to find a fleck of gold, but the lift is lighter and lighter, sounds like, as you do more of it.
Yeah. And honestly, your fleck of gold can be like climbing into bed right now with like my soft sheets, Yeah. Like it doesn't always have, there's some days when you literally probably will not be able to find one with your kids, but you can find one in something else in your life and just remind yourself that I made it through today. Tomorrow's a new day.
And do you imagine that this journal is a record that your kids are going to read someday? Or is this for you? Like there are certain kinds of journals that like, burn this. Nobody's going to read this. Not even my partner that I'm sleeping with is ever going to read this journal. Is this a record of your days that's for other people eventually?
I mean, it's totally up to what you want and what you're comfortable with. But yes, I mean, I think that this would be much more a journal that you would pass on than like your journal where you're processing and brain dumping all of the hard stuff in your life. This is a record of your love for your kids. This is a record of the beauty in your life. And I think about how much I would enjoy reading something like that from my mom.
Yes.
My mom passed away when I was a teenager and she didn't journal at all. I have nothing written from her. And what a treasure it would have been for me to have some record of just like the small moments and the days that we spent together and the things that she loved about me. I had one listener tell me that she bought this journal for her sister who had been diagnosed with cancer so that her sister could start writing down the golden moments and the things with her kids. And this listener said to me, if the worst should happen and my sister does pass away, this is something that her teenage daughter could continue doing. And she could see her mother's, because it's a 3-year journal. So you add one moment and then the next year you see the moment from the year before when you add your next moment.
Wow.
And she said, then she'd be able to see what her mom had written about like the beautiful memories that they shared. And that, especially having had a mom who passed away from cancer myself, that was so precious to me to hear that, I mean, I had never thought of how powerful that could be. And I can't even imagine how much that would have meant to me if in that same circumstance when I was young.
That's incredible.
And it's the handwritten thing, right? The fewer and fewer of us have records of these things. I have a friend, her mother died of cancer. She has her mother's recipe box, like old-fashioned stuffed scribbled recipe box. And she works her way through those recipes, and it's her mother's handwriting, and she touched it. It's not like, let me search my Yahoo archive for, right? It's just not quite the same. So I see that this is worth it, and you do it a little bit at a time, and you're going to create something really remarkable.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, so the benefits are definitely there for you yourself in the moment, but I hope that it will also be something that will be meaningful to your whole family if you start this process.
We're talking to Rachel Nielson from the 3 in 30 podcast, and we'll be right back.
All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that: taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, and it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women, tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING.
Before the break, we were talking about this journaling practice, and I think the Flecks of Gold journal, as you said, it's short entries. So journaling has really different purposes. And I think that there's a purpose for journaling, which is, let me put down the things I'm afraid to say to people, the kind of scary thoughts, the processing. There's a huge role for that kind of journaling. I've done a lot of it in my lifetime. And those are the journals. When my parents moved, I got a box of my old high school journals back, and Amy was appalled. But I took the lid off. I opened one. I looked at one page of it and I threw them all in the trash. I was like, I don't want to, the purpose of this was to process stuff in my life, but going back is going to give me a really bad feeling. And I just took all of my willpower and put it right in the trash can, because I knew that there was no happiness for me in revisiting the really dark days of terrible relationships with my past or whatever else was in those books, or stupid fights I'd had with people and getting angry all over again. But this kind of journaling, I think the Flecks of Gold, and what makes it like journals that you do want to share with people, is that it is these magical moments, powerful moments, golden moments that you share with people. And those kind of things are very magical to revisit. I have a Christmas journal that someone gave me, and we just write down what the Christmas was like. And it's real. We read it aloud. It's really fun. It's not this was the darkest day. I regret having children. Listen, I've written it in a journal, but that's not the one you want your kids to go revisit.
Christmas journal is going to be guaranteed to be hopefully pretty upbeat.
Yeah.
Even the Christmas journal doesn't get the real story of what happened on Christmas, let's be honest.
It's true.
Behind the scenes.
And I will say I'm a lifelong journaler. I'm an avid journaler. And while I agree that you don't want to necessarily revisit all of this, if it's going to bring up a lot of stuff for you, you don't necessarily want to revisit that. I do think there's a lot of value. Like when I go back and I read from my early motherhood, how discouraged I was, it's valuable for me to see how far I've come, as well as it helps me to remember. It helps me to empathize better. I've actually pulled excerpts from my journal and shared them on my podcast to say, like, you're not alone if you're feeling this way, you know? And because I have a mom who didn't journal, who I wish would have journaled, I think, like, I hope someday when my daughter is a new mom, I can say, yep, it's super hard. Do you want to read how I felt about it? Here, read this, you know? And so there is value in all types of journaling. And while I support your decision to get rid of those that
it was the right choice for me.
Yes. I do think that processing as well as remembering some of those really hard times in our lives can be a blessing to us and to our children. If they get to read those things someday, I think it will make them feel more known and like mom was a human. And it's okay that I'm feeling this way too, now that I'm an adult.
I will also say I had revisited the journals earlier at some earlier time when I found them probably in my parents' attic. And the one thing that I did take from it is like, it was so circular. I kept having the same situations and the same kind of relationship problems, whatever it happened to be, like again and again and again and again. And that was illuminating as well.
Yeah.
I have a friend who has been doing, Gretchen Rubin suggests writing one sentence a day. It's not necessarily about flecks of gold or gratitude, although I suppose some threads would start to show up. But you write one sentence a day. And Margaret and I have a friend, she's done it every day for 10 years.
Wow.
And my first question to her was like, what do you do if you forget the book and you go somewhere overnight? What do you do if you're sick? And she was like, then I don't do it. Like it's okay. Like this is an assignment you're giving yourself. Your life isn't ruled by the one sentence a day. She tries to do it most of the time. And, 95% of the time is good enough. And that was like, oh, you don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to start. That was news to me.
Yeah. And I think that is a concern that moms have in my community who use the Flecks of Gold journal. They'll say, I don't want to do it because if I can't be perfectly consistent, then those blank spots will make me sad. And I'm like, well, something is better than nothing, right? So having some memories recorded with your children is better than having no memories recorded with your children. And I just often tell women, just start from today. So let's say you forgot or you got out of the habit and you didn't journal in there for 3 months. Who cares? Don't throw out the practice because you didn't do it for 3 months. Let 3 months be blank and start with today and move forward. But that's hard. It's hard to give yourself permission to do that. But I think it's obviously the more powerful way to live your life is to just say, okay, what's done is done, and I'm going to move forward from here.
I found my mom has also passed away, and I found her, when she was still alive, her high school journal. It was so 1950s. It was like a leather thing with like the gold embossed lettering, and it had a lock on it. And I kept trying to pick the lock, and finally I just cut the leather strap because I was like, I have to know what's in this. And I was probably, I don't know, maybe early high school. And it was her high school journal. And it was so fascinating to me. I mean, it was one of the most valuable things I've ever read. And one of the fascinations for me is I would open it and look at my birthday and she would be doing something boring. And I'm like, I'm going to be born on that day. Like it's that relationship you have with your mother's mind and life is so fascinating to me. Like I would look at her wedding anniversary. It was her dating and it was the 1950s and she was dating a guy named Skippy. And it was just so great. And that she had a boyfriend named Skippy. It just was the most delightful experience of my life.
Yeah. When I read my middle school journal, I can't believe how silly I was. Like, I mean, how dumb I was, to be frank. Like, I want a boyfriend. I want my period. I want, all these things. And now I'm like, when my kids are being silly, I'm like, as an adult, you're kind of like, why are these kids so immature? But then when I read that, I'm like, I was too. They all go through it. I wanted Abercrombie and Fitch and all the things. I'm like, luckily you grow out of that. And it gives me hope as a mom that like my kids are going to come out of their kind of silly phases that all teenagers and tweens go through.
It's hard to remember when you look at them now, like, oh, we were into stupid stuff too.
Yes.
Let's talk about 3 in 30 takeaways from moms. How long has your podcast been going?
4 years. We just celebrated 4 years this month.
What do moms get when they come to this podcast?
So I decided to start my show because I was looking for insight and wisdom from mom podcasts, but I found that a lot of them, I felt like the takeaways were really buried. Like I would listen to the whole interview or episode, and there were some good gems in there, but I couldn't quite pull them out as easily. So I decided to start 3 in 30 because the 3 takeaways are very defined. It's a short length, about 30 minutes. So moms are busy. They don't have a lot of brain space. So I created it because it's what I was wanting. And it's been a huge blessing in my life. I was a high school English teacher, as I said before, and I taught my students to take a lot of complicated, complex, big ideas and boil them down to a thesis statement. And a lot of times a thesis statement has 3 parts, at least how I taught it. And so that's kind of what I do on my show, is to take a topic and to boil it down to 3 main points and kind of develop them. And I interview, it's mostly not me. I do some solo episodes, but mostly it's all these expert guests that bring a lot of wisdom and understanding. And I get to learn a ton from these people where they come with their 3 best, takeaways on any topic.
That is the best thing about doing a podcast, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've been doing this for 5 years now, and I really want to know about this. I really want to understand this thing better. So let's do an episode about it.
Totally.
Which will force us to do a little research, talk it out. I have learned so much from asking the questions that our listeners ask us. And through answering them, I've answered them for myself.
Absolutely. My son the other day said, "Mom, since you started your podcast, your parenting has improved insanely."
Really?
I was like, well, thank you, son. But it's true. I've learned from so many smart people, and I'm a better mom because I have, put their wisdom into practice in my home.
That's awesome.
Love it. All right. Well, we'll put links to the 3 in 30 Takeaways podcast and the Flecks of Gold journal in the show notes. But Rachel, tell us more about where we can find you.
Yeah. So my website is 3in30podcast.com, and you'll find everything there. And 3 in 30 Takeaways for Moms on any podcast app. And I would love to give, if it's okay with you, Margaret and Amy, I would love to give a discount code to your listeners for the Flecks of Gold journal. So we'll do fresh for 10% off. And I don't know when this episode will air, but it's a great Christmas gift and Mother's Day gift and anytime gift. So I would love for you to check it out, anyone who's listening.
We have our own, and they're absolutely gorgeous. We co-sign. We highly recommend.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
Rachel, thanks for talking to us today.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.